The deal with Iran, who's for it, who's against? I'm Brian Lilley with TheRebel.media. The deal was announced with great fanfare in Vienna and Washington on Tuesday and almost immediately denounced. President Obama says this deal will bring peace and stability.
A different path, one of tolerance and peaceful resolution of conflict, leads to more integration into the global economy, more engagement with the international community, and the ability of the Iranian people to prosper and thrive.
But will it? Is this a good deal, as the White House says, or is it a disaster, as critics will say? Well, let's look at some details and then look at who's for it, who's against it. And who's against it might surprise you. Now, under this deal, Iran will give up its ability to enrich uranium. 2/3 of its centrifuges will be placed in storage, and most of its stockpile of low-enriched uranium will be exported out of the country. Now, what will that do? Well, it's going to mean the timeline for Iran developing a nuclear bomb is set back from about 3 to 4 months now to 12 months. That still doesn't leave me overly hopeful or comfortable. Now, Iran's main nuke facility, built inside a hollowed-out mountain to protect it from airstrikes, well, that will be converted into a research center, and their main nuclear power plant will be redesigned to make it useless for building nuclear bomb material. Now, in return, Iran will see about $100 billion in frozen assets released and the arms embargo lifted, so soon they'll be able to buy ballistic missiles again. Now, of course, inspections are part of this, but the deal does not allow for anytime, anywhere inspections. Iran will have a great deal of say in where and when inspectors can look, including refusing access for up to 24 days. So in evaluating a deal as complex as this, sometimes looking at who is for it and who's against it can give you a hint at whether it's really a good deal or a bad deal. You'd expect Republicans to be opposed by a deal with by a Democratic president. A Republican Senator Tim Scott was putting it bluntly on Fox News why he's against it. He says you can't trust the Iranians.
I do not trust the Iranians in this situation. I will simply say that it's very hard to make a good deal with bad actors. And so far, what we've experienced in the past is lost opportunity after lost opportunity because we could not trust the other side to do what they said they were going to do.
Now, it's because of people like Scott more than any presidential campaign that President Obama has threatened a veto. He says a full deal, the full deal, must be accepted as is. And if Congress passes any legislation to alter any part of the plan, he's going to veto it. Senator Scott rightly points out that doesn't show a great deal of faith in your deal. President Obama is essentially saying he can negotiate with the Iranian regime, the people that shout death to America, but he can't negotiate or even try to persuade his fellow countrymen from another party. What about reaction outside of the United States? We know Israel doesn't like it, but we also know there are other countries as well. I'll get to that in a moment, but first, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu explains why he will not stand by this deal brokered between Iran, the U.S., and others.
What a stunning, historic mistake. Israel is not bound by this deal with Iran, and Israel is not bound by this deal with Iran because Iran continues to seek our destruction. We will always defend ourselves.
Okay, so Israel opposes the deal. Some will brush that aside, but it shouldn't be looked at this way. This is important. But who else is against the deal? The Saudis. Yeah, the Saudi government, the Saudi regime, a country with no love for Israel, is opposed to the deal. They don't trust Iran. They fear the country will continue to build nuclear arms. Saudi Arabia is said to be looking at doing the same for their own defense. And I don't think I need to point out that Saudi Arabia has long been a key American ally in the Middle East. Another American ally that doesn't like the deal? Canada. Prime Minister Stephen Harper has taken a hard line against Iran, not only over the country's position on Israel, but their support for terrorist organizations elsewhere, their rampant spying in Canada, and their support for groups that undermine democracy and spread the ideology of the Ayatollahs. So Foreign Affairs Minister Rob Nicholson issued this statement on Tuesday, explaining why Canada is leaving its sanctions regime against Iran in place. Quote, "We appreciate the efforts of the P5+1 to reach an agreement. At the same time, we will continue to judge Iran by its actions, not its words. To this end, Canada will continue to support the efforts of the International Atomic Energy Agency to monitor Iran's compliance with its commitments. Iran continues to be a significant threat to international peace and security, owing to the regime's nuclear ambitions, its continuing support for terrorism, its repeated calls for the destruction of Israel, and its disregard for basic human rights. We will examine this deal further before taking any specific Canadian action. Now, add all of this together, and it should be plain to see that concern or apprehension or even outright opposition to this deal is about more than partisan politics in Washington. There are real concerns over whether Iran can be trusted, whether a deal that says any site can be inspected but that Iran has 24 days to allow inspectors in is actually what's needed. You can move a lot of gear, hide a lot of things in 24 days. It's early in the analysis of this deal, but when looking at who's standing with President Obama, who's not standing with him on this deal, I'm going to remain skeptical, as you should, as anyone should who's looked at the Iranian track record. They can't be trusted to honor this deal, however lucrative it might be for Tehran, and however bad it might be for the West.